This Copycat Dairy Queen ice cream cake is made with a layer of chocolate and vanilla ice cream sandwiched around the iconic fudgy chocolate layer with those chocolate crunchies. It's pretty much a dead ringer for the real thing. You're gonna love it. Hi, I'm Lindsay from Life, Love, and Sugar, and today we're making a Copycat Dairy Queen ice cream cake. All right, so to get started, we're gonna make the chocolate crunchies. We're gonna use some Oreos and some melted butter. So you're actually gonna use the whole Oreo, cream and all, and pop it into your food processor. You can leave the cream in the Oreos and everything. We're just gonna grind them up into crumbs. All right, so once you've ground up your Oreos into crumbs, you can just pour your Oreos back into your bowl and then add your melted butter. And then we're gonna stir all this together until it gets kind of crumbly. All right, once you've got those all mixed together, you can spread them out onto our cookie sheet. We're gonna bake these in the oven for about 8 to 10 minutes on 350 so that they get nice and crunchy. All right, so while your chocolate crunchies bake and cool, you can actually set your chocolate ice cream out to soften for about 20 minutes before you need it. And then you wanna prepare your cake pan and start layering everything. I'm using an 8x3-inch cake pan. It is gonna be about a full 3 inches tall, so you need a tall cake pan. If you don't have this size pan, you could try an 8x2 and build kind of a mock collar or use a cake collar, or you could even use a 9x3-inch pan. You just wouldn't have as tall of a cake. But I'm gonna use the 8x3 and show you how I set it up. So we're gonna use clear wrap, and this is gonna allow us to actually pull the cake out of the cake pan after it's built and frozen and ready to go. So we're gonna press this down into our pan. We want to make sure it's nice and long, so we have overhang here because that's what we're going to use to lift the cake out later. And you want to press this flat up against the sides of the pan. Now we're going to use a second sheet and put it the opposite direction. What you really want to have is full coverage inside the pan so that you don't end up with any ice cream touching the pan. If it freezes to the pan touching the pan, it'll actually make it harder to take out later. So you can see the pan is fully lined. There's no pan that isn't covered by some of the clear wrap. And we have these nice long handles that we're going to use after the fact when everything is frozen and ready to help lift it out of the pan. So once you have that ready to go, you can add your ice cream. This ice cream has been softening for a while, so it should be good to go. Stir it up, get it kind of creamy and smooth. All right, so we've got it so that it's nice and creamy and smooth. It's easily spreadable. So we're gonna go ahead and put this into our cake pan. All right, now we're gonna spread this out into a nice even layer. All right, now we'll put this in the freezer for about 20 minutes to set. While your ice cream firms up in the freezer for a little bit, we're gonna go ahead and make our fudge layer. You're going to use some semi-sweet chocolate chips, a little bit of vanilla extract, and some corn syrup. This is what actually helps keep that fudge layer soft even when it's frozen. And we're going to heat up our heavy cream until it just starts to boil. All right, now we can pour our hot cream over our chocolate chips. We're gonna let that sit for a few minutes and let the heat kind of melt those chocolate chips. After it's been sitting for a few minutes, we're gonna go ahead and stir it up. All right, you should end up with a nice, smooth, fudgy chocolate. We'll go ahead and set that aside. And we're gonna grab our chocolate crunchies that are done baking. Sometimes they form kind of bigger clumps while they're baking, so we're going to break those up a little bit. All right, so now that we've got our fudge ready and our chocolate crunchies, we're gonna go ahead and grab our chocolate ice cream that's in our cake pan. All right, so we've got our chocolate ice cream layer here that's been freezing for about 30 minutes, just long enough so that it firmed up a little bit, and we can go ahead and add our next layer. We are going to add our chocolate fudge. And then we're gonna just shake that out to spread it into a nice even layer. Okay, now that we've got our fudge layer in our cake pan, we're gonna go ahead and pop this in the freezer for about 10 minutes. All right, so after you've given the chocolate fudge layer a chance to freeze up a bit, we're gonna go ahead and add our chocolate crunchies on top. And we'll spread those into an even layer on top of the fudge. All right, so now we want to pop this back into the freezer for a few hours just so that everything really gets nice and firm. All right, so after letting your ice cream freeze for a couple hours, you want to go ahead and get your vanilla ice cream ready to go on top. Set it out to soften for about 20 minutes. And now we're gonna get this all smooth and creamy so that we can put it on top of our ice cream cake. All right, so once you have everything nice and creamy and smooth, we're gonna grab our cake, our ice cream cake out of the freezer and add this on top. All right, so now we have our ice cream cake that's nice and frozen, and we are going to start adding the vanilla ice cream onto it. I don't wanna mix it into the crunchies too much, so I'm gonna start with just a little bit, smooth this out, and then add some more. All right, so now that all the crunchies are covered, I'm just gonna add the rest of the vanilla ice cream, and we'll smooth it all out. All right, so now we've got our vanilla ice cream smoothed out on top of our cake. We've got all our layers. We're gonna pop this back into the freezer to freeze for about 2 more hours. All right, so when you're ready to decorate your cake, you're gonna go ahead and make your whipped cream. That's gonna be your frosting. We've got cold, heavy whipping cream. Pour that into our mixer bowl. Some powdered sugar. This adds sweetness, but it also stabilizes your whipped cream, so it's not gonna come melting off of your ice cream cake because it wilts. Your ice cream could still melt, but your whipped cream isn't melting. And some vanilla extract for flavor. We'll pop this on the mixer and whip it on high speed until you get stiff peaks. You'll know your whipped cream has reached stiff peaks when you can lift it out of the bowl like this and it stays in place and is still kind of the peaks are standing, so they're stiff. So we've got our ice cream ready to go. We're gonna set this aside and get our ice cream cake out of the freezer and get it ready to decorate. All right, so now we've got our ice cream cake out of the freezer and we want to remove it from the pan. This is the really fun part. So assuming you gave yourself nice handles, you should be able to lift it out of your pan, but we are going to probably need to loosen it from the edges a little bit, from the sides. Okay, so I'm going to take my offset spatula and try to separate the sides a little bit. All right, here's our ice cream cake. Let's peel the plastic back. Now I'm actually going to transfer this over to a cardboard cake round so we can move it around more easily. All right, now I'm going to pop this back in the freezer for a few minutes just to make sure it stays nice and firm before I decorate it. Okay, now we're ready to decorate our cake. We are going to work quickly so that our ice cream does not melt. All right, so you want to go ahead and smooth out any edges if you need to, and then we're going to decorate our cake. I usually start at the top and work my way down to the sides. Okay, so once your cake is fully covered, you can smooth the sides and the top, and then we'll be ready to add some decorations. So I'm going to use a piping bag fitted with the Ateco 844 tip just to pipe some shells around the top and the bottom of the cake. So once you've got all that on there, you can go ahead and add whatever sprinkles you want. I've got some colorful stars. Just gonna sprinkle those on here. And then about as quickly as you can, you're gonna wanna pop it back in the freezer. And now you have your final ice cream cake ready to go. I know you're gonna love it. The crunchy fudge layer in there is the best. For the full recipe, head over to lifeloveandsugar.com.